Hello, and welcome to OvaryActive. I'm Dr. Rebecca Dunsmoor-Su.
And I'm Dr. Amy Voedisch, and we are your expert guides on the strange and often uncomfortable journey that is perimenopause. Rebecca, I have a surprise for you today, and I would like for you to read to our listeners, since they can't see us,
Oh, so
what I'm
exciting.
wearing today.
Oh, she's wearing a t-shirt that says Merry and Bright.
This is a clue, dear listeners. I have been, ever since I was little and would watch Oprah Winfrey, I've always wanted to do like a Amy's favorite things, and when, I mean, unfortunately, we can't give away cars to everyone who's listening to us today. But I'm so excited. We're doing a Christmas episode
Yes, or Hanukkah,
or Hanukkah.
or just because it's cold and dark outside and you want a gift.
Exactly. So this is basically our holiday gift list for anyone you know who might be in perimenopause, or a gift for yourself. This could be a Christmas gift. It could be a Hanukkah gift. It could be a birthday gift. It could be a winter solstice gift. Whatever holiday you
It could.
celebrate or whatever you need it for. It's very exciting.
And we have a amazing lineup. We're going to cover all sorts of categories. So excited. We thought long and hard about all the things that we use in our daily lives or we've heard of from patients who think that they're fantastic. So shall we launch in, Amy?
I think we should probably state that we are not getting any kickbacks for any of these products. We don't have a relationship with any of these companies. These are just things that either we use or patients have used or friends have used and they think are fabulous.
We're a small podcast. We have no sponsors. So nobody's going to give us money for this episode. So buy at will wherever you can find
No,
these things.
we are not Oprah Winfrey.
Not yet, at least.
Nope, but we get to pretend to be her.
So we've come up with a curated list for you all. Now, these things are all things that we really like, or our friends really like, or our patients really like, but we have no connection to any of these companies. Nobody's giving us any money, and we won't tell you where to go buy them. You're going to have to look them up yourself. But we have it sort of broken down into categories. And I think a category we should start with, Amy, is skin, hair, and nails. Because this is a
Oh, yes.
big concern as we transition through this perimenopause, but also as we age. These things change. And doing the best, healthiest things for your skin, hair, and nails is really critical.
It seems sort of superficial to focus on skin, hair, and nails when there's other things, happening. But this is important. This is how we feel about ourselves when we look in the mirror, how we feel like our bodies are changing. And also just, overall, sometimes these changes can be uncomfortable. So here are some ways that we can help to combat that.
So the first one that I put on the list is what I use every morning, and it's called Advanced Clinical's Hyaluronic Acid Moisturizer. It comes in a big, ugly tub. It is not elegant. I think I got it on the Amazon. But it is just a nice absorbing moisturizer that feels very light on my skin. I can put it under makeup if I ever wear makeup, which is exceedingly rarely.
We don't have time for that.
No, but it makes my face skin feel not dry all day. And I actually put it on my face, on my hands and cuticles, and I put it on my elbows, which get really scratchy.
Oh, good. I mean, that's a really big common complaint, right? Patients will come in and talk about how dry they are, just kind of everywhere. It's not just the Sahara Desert in our vaginas that happen, it's everywhere. So it's really nice to have a good moisturizer in order to help combat those changes.
And like I said, it comes in a big tub, so you can put it all over. I really like it because I'm one of those people who's got terrible, really sensitive skin. And this has nothing but what you need in it. There's no scent, there's no color. It's just hyaluronic acid moisturizer.
That is awesome. That's a great recommendation. On the skin theme, one of the things that I recommend that my 12-year-old daughter, who is Sephora obsessed, recommends is sunscreen. She's like, Mom, how do you not wear sunscreen every day? And so she actually bought me Supergoop's Every Single Face sunscreen. It's very light. Because one of the things I don't love about sunscreen is when you put it on and it can start to kind of clump up a little bit and just sort of,
Or it just feels heavy.
yeah, and you like look like you're wearing stage makeup or something when you put it on. So that has been really nice because it's very thin, it's very light, but it works really well. And then the other one is if you want any sort of tint to go with it, like if you like a little bit of a tinted moisturizer or a tinted sunscreen, Supergoop has a glow screen sunscreen that almost has a little bit of some like cover up concealer in it, but then so kind of can help even out some of your skin tone if you're having any sort of redness or anything like that. But I've really liked the Every Single Face.
I might have to look into that because I'm bad. I don't wear sunscreen. Now, granted, I live in Seattle. We don't have
True.
sun. So
No, the dermatologist, it's like just a free pass in
yeah.
Seattle. Don't need to have sunscreen there. You need to absorb every molecule of vitamin D you possibly can.
There you
So
go.
I got it.
Another face cream that I use, so what I use at night is something called Typology of Paris Firming Night
Ooh.
Mask. So this is a very fancy Parisian makeup place. So this is not cheap stuff,
Okay, good to know.
but it has just a tiny bit of retinol in it, so not a lot. It doesn't really dry out the skin. It
Okay.
just helps a little bit with those wrinkles and is a little firming, and I find it very comfortable to wear at night.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's a good one. And you have, by the way, for our listeners who can't obviously see us, Rebecca has amazing skin. So this is fantastic to hear about. On that vein, one of the things that I've noticed is really dry lips. My girlfriends who've known me forever know that I'm obsessed with chapstick or any kind of lip balm. I just always have one with me. And my new obsession is the Laneige lip sleeping mask. And
Ooh.
so you put it on at night before you go to bed, you just kind of coat it on there and it just like hydrates and moisturizes your lips because I tend to, especially if you're having hot flashes and night sweats and you're hot and all of the things. I actually use it all day long, and I'm sure that's not how it's designed, but I'm like obsessed with lip balms. But I've loved Laneige, and my daughters are obsessed with it as well. And they have a little holiday sampler pack that you can get for yourself or whoever you're buying gifts for, which is nice because then you can try all the different flavors.
Ooh. And then daytime for lips, I tend to use something called Lip Whip by Carrie Gran. So
Ooh.
she makes cosmetics out of Seattle. They're very low ingredient, again, not a lot of scent, little bit of just a slight pink tint, and it's very moisturizing. Love that stuff.
Well, this is gonna be an expensive,
Episode.
episode for me.
So let's move on to nails.
Okay.
Ever since I went through menopause, my nails just shred. They peel. I can't use them to open anything. It drives me crazy. And if I do nothing because I'm so active and I'm a doctor, I'm using my hands all the time. I end up with them like even shorter than my fingers. Like they're really uncomfortable.
Oh, ouch.
I tend to apply a nail hardener a couple times a week. And the one that I've settled on is called Nail Tech Nail Hardener, and that's with a K, TEK, Nail Tech. And it's, a little glossy. So it looks like I have like some clear nail polish on, but it seems to hold my nails sort of stable if I do it twice a week.
I used that back in the 20s because I used to be a nail biter, and it really was super helpful, and I'm glad to hear that, and I thought it was a really great product then, and I haven't used it now that I'm obsessed with gel nails, then, there's that, which has other issues, but that was a great product that I used to use a lot back in the day. And then a cuticle oil, speaking of nails, I think is also a really good idea. Do you have a favorite cuticle oil that you like to use?
Right now, you're going to laugh at me. Right now, I am using basically a little pot of beeswax and cocoa butter that I picked up in a chocolate factory in Mexico.
Oh, nice.
So it smells like chocolate, which is nice.
Okay, so we don't really have a link for that though. There isn't, we can't recommend where someone could pick that up. But I think any great cuticle oil would be helpful
Hmm.
for folks just because of the dryness that happens overall throughout our entire bodies with this perimenopausal change. And so that's something I think that can be really helpful that you can use in conjunction with like a nail hardener if you're noticing any nail issues.
So I added one makeup thing to our list. And like I said, I'm not a makeup wearer. If I'm going to an event, I might put a little makeup on, but I'm generally not a makeup wearer. The one thing I do every day is draw in my eyebrows because they've gone poof with
Oh,
perimenopause.
how fun for you. Yes.
I have no eyebrows anymore. I have a few stray brows up there. So I was introduced to Glossier Boy Brow by my children. And Glossier is a company out of Britain, but their products are not that expensive. And again, very few ingredients. And they have a really lovely dark brown boy brow that really enhances your brows. So I like that one immensely.
Oh, nice. Well, it's funny because with perimenopause, what we find is that you gain hair where you don't want it, like on your chin, and
Yes.
then lose hair where you would like to keep it, like your eyebrows. And suddenly you're like, why do I not have any eyebrows? And yet I have like a small goatee.
Speaking of goatees, you've put something for that on this list, haven't you?
I like Tweezerman. So for plucking of my chin hairs, I love Tweezerman. And they have like a little pink perfection set that are pink. So I like pink and I like bright colors. And so I think they're really fun. The problem is I have 8 and 12-year-old girls and they disappear constantly. So it's basically on like a subscribe order on Amazon because like they just keep disappearing. But because I'm in perimenopause and I just have random chin hairs that come up all the time,
We all
I'm now
do.
constantly plucking my chin. And I have found that personally, I really like the Tweezerman brand.
Now, you've put a hairdryer on there, which I'm guessing is great for straightening hair. I'm going to talk about
Yes,
a hairdryer that I love for my curly hair because we
right.
have opposite needs in a hairdryer.
We do. So I love my Dyson hair dryer. It is a very expensive product. It's ridiculously expensive. It's like $600 or something for this hair dryer. And the reason why I like it is because I have this kind of crazy hair that's sort of straight, but kind of curly, and it's sort of in between, but it doesn't ever look cute. It just kind of looks like a mess. So it's like it either needs to be curled or it needs to be straightened. And so they have with the Dyson hair dryer, you can actually get a variety of different accoutrements that go with it, different heads that attach to it. So it can be a straightener, it can be like a blowout, kind of like a round brush. They actually have, because my 12-year-old has really curly hair, surprisingly. So it has a wonderful diffuser attachment that comes with it as well for curly hair. So it is now the hot item in my house. And if I dare to go to a conference or go someplace without my children, my 8-year-old who wants her hair straightened and my 12-year-old who needs it for her diffusing for her curls throw an absolute tantrum if this thing has been removed from the house. It is like the hot item in our house right now.
I have curly hair. It's
Fabulously,
very fine. It's very frizzy.
fabulous curly hair.
So when I'm looking at a dryer, I'm looking for something that's going to, make my curls look good, but also not frizz up the top of my head where all the little short hairs are. So what I have started using is something called an SRI Dry Q hair dryer. And it's got a nice low setting, it's got a big diffuser, and it's got infrared as well. So it dries very gently. And I really like it.
That's so cool. Well, maybe I can get that for my 12-year-old. She'll
You
stop taking
should.
my Dyson.
Yes.
She's
Perfect.
obsessed. I know, and she has got the curls just like you have, and
Uh-huh.
it's a whole different thing
Oh,
when you have curly hair.
curly girl method is a whole thing.
Yep. So we found a curly girl cut and like the whole this is a
Yeah.
whole new world for me. I did not even know existed.
So let's move on from our skin, hair, and nails to eating, which both
Oh,
of
my
us really
favorite.
love to do.
Right. It's really just my favorite.
It's both of our favorite, which is a problem. We are big foodies, and both of us, I think, cook at home pretty regularly.
Yeah. Mhm.
When you have families, it's a good idea. But also, I actually really enjoy cooking. I find it soothing and like almost a form of meditation.
And you do a lot of gardening as well.
I do. I grow a lot of vegetables. So I have put two books on our food and cooking list that I like for very different reasons. So I'm going to tell you about both of them. One of them I have been using for years. It's called Vegetarian Cooking for Everyone by Deborah Madison. And I am not a vegetarian. Love me some meat. But we tend to eat primarily vegetarian during the week just because that's what we have in our garden and in our house. And she just has really interesting ways that are very hearty to make vegetables the center of your meal.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
so I've always used this book. There are a couple recipes in there I go back to over and over again. She has an amazing sauteed shredded beet recipe that I make all the time, a zucchini and feta and tomato recipe that I love. So, just lots of great ideas in that book. It's one of those books where it's also a story. Like you read about how can you use this vegetable in different ways and what are the nutrients and things like that.
Very cool.
Yeah. The other one I put on here is actually funny for me because it's called Run Fast, Eat Slow by Elise Kopecki. And I do not run. I never run. If I'm being chased by a bear, I'm the one getting eaten.
Oh, 100%. I'm throwing in the towel before it even starts. I'm
Yeah.
like, "You know what? I'm just gonna take one for the team
Yeah.
here."
Eat me. But what she does is really look at how macronutrients and how to nourish your body for activity and for exercise. And she focuses a lot on protein, which is really important in perimenopause.
Very important.
And I was introduced to this book because of one specific recipe, which I want everybody to at least look up on the internet. I think she actually gives this recipe away free. It's called Superhero Muffins.
Oh.
This is my go to breakfast. It is an almond flour muffin
Oh, I'm in, 100%.
made with almond flour, eggs, other nuts, dried fruits. I put cherries, zucchini, and carrot. And not only are they spectacularly delicious, they freeze beautifully. So I make a 24 muffin batch and stick them in the freezer and pull it out and nuke it for 30 seconds every morning. And I've got a warm muffin.
Oh my god, I'm so happy right now. I can't even tell you. I love carbohydrates more than, like, almost anything. Like, I love my kids, but, you know.
This feels like you're eating carbs. There's no flour in it.
Yes. Okay. I'm so happy right now. Honestly, like, basically best day of my life. Okay. This is great. I'm immediately going that is immediately going into rotation for sure.
Yeah. What are some cookbooks you like?
Probably one of my favorites. It's a cookbook and a website that I've used a lot. It's called Skinny Taste.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love the word skinny because I think there's a lot of connotations there with like
Mm.
what we should be and what we shouldn't be, and that being skinny is better. But there's a woman named Gina Homolka, and she has started Skinny Taste. And basically, what I like about it is I grew up on a farm in Minnesota. I grew up in Minnesota. We had sort of rich, hearty meals were what I grew up with. And so these are those meals, but just sort of skinnied down a little bit. So you still have all the flavor and all of the key ingredients that make your lasagna the best thing that you ever had, but in a way that is, I think, healthier. And so there's lots of like great substitutions and things for people who are dairy free and people who are gluten free and whatever allergy. She has so many different things depending on your allergies. And what I love about her website is it's really easy to search through. You can find a variety of different things that are in there. And one of my favorite recipes that I think is available for free, it's called these spicy Brussels sprout pork bowls. And so you
Ooh.
shred up Brussels sprouts, absolutely delicious. And it's like all mixed up, kind of like a shredded Brussels sprout stir fry, Italian sausage, like ground pork in it, but then it also has an egg on top, like a runny egg. It's really delicious. When those are made, they're gone like in no time. Like you're like, well, I just spent all this time making that. But she has a ton of other ideas that we use. And a couple of the devices that I love to use in my kitchen that were sort of COVID purchases, but I actually use, and one of them
Mm-hmm.
is an air fryer. I have the Ninja. I think you have don't you have a different air fryer?
Yeah, so I actually ended up buying the Cuisinart air fryer toaster oven, partly because I have a relatively small amount of counter space, so I needed a multitasker,
Hmm.
partly because it doesn't have plastic in it. So the fry basket is metal, which was important to me.
No, really important. The Ninja is also all metal, and I think that is really important. With Skinny Taste, they actually have a lot of air fryer recipes. So one of the things that I'll make because my kids are obsessed with chicken nuggets is there's a homemade chicken nugget recipe in there with the air fryer or just different things like that you don't really think about and you're like, "Oh, this works amazingly well for that." And it's really easy and then you feel like you're getting like this fabulous hot meal, but it's pretty low maintenance.
Yeah, you also put on this list something that I also adore, which is a sous vide machine.
Oh, obsession.
And you know what I use it mostly for? Jammy eggs. I love a jammy egg.
Tell me about this. I have not used it in this purpose.
Yes, so you can cook perfectly boiled eggs with a jammy center in a sous vide and keep them in there so that they stay exactly the right temperature. You can make like 12 at a time and then serve
Okay,
them out.
that's incredible. I have a whole family coming for Thanksgiving, which I can't wait. I love
Mhm.
them so much. But, serving breakfast to a large crowd and so that everybody gets a hot meal at the same time, like this could be a great idea for that.
We use them a lot on Asian soups. So my husband, for those of you who don't know, is from his family's from Taiwan. He was born in the US, but we eat a lot of like Asian soups and ramens and noodles. And a jammy egg on that is heaven.
Oh, see, you could put that spicy pork Brussels sprouts, right? Like that would be
You
perfect.
could.
Oh, I love everything about that.
So, one last hint in the food and cooking realm is a subscription. So, we have a subscription category too, but I'm going to bring it up here. And this is the one I use probably the most. Everyone knows New York Times Cooking. Great subscription, highly recommend. But the one I actually use more is America's Test Kitchen. And I use it a ton because they have very clear instructions. They have all sorts of types of food, but they also talk about how to use devices. So, like, I've learned a lot about sous vide cooking from them.
Oh, that's fantastic. I find what I'll do when I get these devices like the air fryer, the sous vide, or whatever, is I'll find like a few things. I'll get that figured out. And then I don't expand beyond that. And so I think having something that's easy, that's a really good idea.
So, here's one for you for your holiday. Maybe not Thanksgiving because that's more of a turkey holiday, but they have a way to use your sous vide to cook an entire like chuck roast and make it taste like prime rib.
That sounds fabulous. Okay. I just honestly, like I said, single greatest day of my life right now. People couldn't
Yeah,
be
you're
happier.
totally making this podcast for us.
Maybe we need to pivot this podcast to be about food. I think that's clearly where maybe our second passion is besides hormones.
There you go. Next, home and garden. And, most of this is actually about the night sweats and the hot flashes, right?
Yes. Yep.
And recommendations number 1 through 5 are all the chili pad.
Yes.
I could
100%.
not have survived perimenopause and menopause without my chili pad. And a chili pad is just a mattress cover that goes under your bottom sheet. It hooks up to a little machine and it runs cool water under you all night long. So you don't get cold, you just can't heat up your bed. And it just broke the cycle of multiple night sweats for me.
Oh, that's amazing. I've had patients tell me that it has saved their marriage.
Yeah, because I also got to close the windows in the winter, which made my husband very happy.
And you weren't, and it's like the constant like throwing off the covers and pulling them back on and kicking your legs out. And, that disrupts the other person who's potentially sleeping or bed sharing with you. And so keeping it so that you're not thrashing around or having to get up to change sheets because you're like, well, now I just soaked through those. Sorry, everybody's up. I got to put new sheets on. This is much better.
Yeah, and there's also the bed jet, which is sort of a fan that tucks in at the foot of your bed so it blows air under the covers at you. I think that can be great if you're a solo sleeper. That would not have gone over well in my joint bed.
Right. Yes. No, exactly. And not everyone wants to sleep in a wind tunnel,
No,
you
no,
know?
I don't mind it so much.
Yeah, if you're hot and you're sweaty and waking up and you'll like, I'll take the wind tunnel. But anybody else, you're like, thank you. I'm gonna pass on that.
Yeah.
The other thing that I find is very helpful are the sort of portable fans where you can either like put a fan, like the neck fans that you put around your neck. In particular, if you decide that you want to take your 8-year-old to Disneyland when it's 109 degrees, could be a lifesaver. Just going to throw that out there. And then I have patients who really love the ones that plug into the bottom of their phone so that they can just have a fan with them at all times. And it just uses your phone battery to power. So it's like small, portable. You're in the middle of a meeting or you're on a Zoom. You could just plug that in and blow at you. Nobody needs to even see that you have it, but it's just a way to kind of help when you're having those temperature fluctuations.
And, personally, I wander around with paper fans. I have a paper fan in every
Oh,
bag.
yeah.
Anyone who has ever met me in real life has seen me fanning myself with a, Asian style paper fan. And I love those things. They work great and no battery needed.
Yeah, no, they're perfect, right? Like you're not going to worry about draining your phone battery. You don't, I mean, and if you lose it, like, they're relatively inexpensive. Like that's great.
I think I bought a 10 pack on Amazon.
Perfect. Right. So that
Exactly.
could be a stocking stuffer if you do stockings, right? Everybody could get a fan. There we go. And then you had something else under home and garden called Padelay bowl covers.
This is actually probably best in the food and cooking, but also in home and garden. This is something I discovered recently. And, I'm trying to reduce my use of single use plastics.
Yep.
And so these are fabric on the outside and silicone on the inside, expandable like shower caps that go over bowls.
Oh, cool.
The pack comes with like 8 sizes. So you can put
Oh,
it on
that's so
any bowl. And if it gets dirty, you throw it in the washing machine.
that's so cool.
Yes. So
That's
they're called
great.
Padelai, Patelai. Highly recommend. They're kind of cute. They've got like blue and white designs on them.
Oh, yeah, they're like little patterned, like
Hmm.
little patterns.
They're just
Okay.
like fabric shower caps for your bowls.
Fabric shower caps for your bowls. Okay, I'm dying. My kids are going to love this, right? Anything
Uh-huh.
that's got a pattern to it, they're going to be so excited. Okay, so I think we're going to transition into hot topic exercise, health, and sleep related items.
Yes.
We have a lot in here. We'll do several episodes on exercise, weight management. That's a big thing in perimenopause. There's big body composition changes that happen. But here are a few like fun things to look for before we get into like the nerdy part of sort of physiologically what's happening and why and what can we do about it. So one of the big things is as you're transitioning from premenopause to menopause, the focus of our exercise has to change. So we're no longer going to be doing like Jane Fonda cardio. You need to be doing a lot more strength training to kind of combat some of the biological changes that are happening. And a lot of people don't know how to strength train. Like it's just something that they haven't done, and you want to do it properly so that you don't get hurt. I like things that are free. And so I discovered this woman named Carolyn Girvin, and she is spelled Girvan, and she has free YouTube videos. She also has an app, but a lot of her content is free on YouTube. You don't have to do the app. And she has amazing series of free content, and they range anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. I think an hour sometimes is very overwhelming, but the 20 to 30-minute ones are great. And actually, in the sort of vein of the Christmas episode or our holiday gift list, is she has a series called Advent, and they're 20 minutes designed for kind of the month of December when people generally tend to be really busy. I do want to put a little bit of a disclaimer that nobody looks like Carolyn Girvin in real life. So don't look at her and think that's what everyone should look like. She is a unbelievable specimen. And remember that that is her job, is to work out all the time. So don't compare yourself to her. So that is one of my recommendations for sort of strength one.
And you put another person on here. Tell me about Stacy Sims.
So Stacy Sims is really interesting. She has a book called Next Level. She does have podcasts. You may have heard of her. What I like about Next Level is that Stacy is an elite athlete. And when she went through, and I don't know her personally, I just have kind of followed some of her podcast interviews. And I have a patient who's actually friends with her. What I like about her, she is an elite athlete. And then when she went through perimenopause and menopause, she realized that her performance was changing, sort of her ability to do triathlons and cycling and all of those things at the level that she was used to was changing, even though she was training the same way and eating the same way and all of that. So she had to figure out how to train and fuel your body for this new phase. And so she has some really good, I think, solid information in the book Next Level. Now, we're not all trying to be elite athletes, so we don't have to do all of the things that she's laid out, but she has like some really nice, I think, take home points on things that you can do to kind of help with the body composition and the changes and things that you might want to be making at this time.
And one more person that I'll recommend. It's actually someone I follow on Instagram. Her name is Amanda Thebe, Thebe. And she had a very similar experience. She was going through perimenopause and then into menopause and tried hormone therapy. It didn't work well for her and really noticed the changes in her body. And so, really focused on how to best move her body and exercise her body for health. She looks great and exercise is her job now. But, she's also just fun to follow. She gives you simple things you can do with things at home, exercises at home.
I love that.
Yeah. And also, I actually followed her saga of learning to swim, which was very fun.
That's awesome. Oh, that's amazing. Yes, I should mention with Carolyn that you don't need any fancy equipment.
That's great.
A set of dumbbells is really about it. And honestly, if you just want to get some soup cans, you can start with that. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be fancy.
Personally, what I found most useful for helping to strengthen myself is Pilates. And there's so many Pilates apps and videos, but I found that for me, those didn't work very well because I didn't understand the background of the Pilates. I didn't understand what I was trying to do with it. So I do a series of private lessons, which is great, but it's gotten me to the point where I can now do some of those Pilates mat classes online because I understand what they're telling me to do.
Right.
So
Yep.
sometimes that combination of things can be really helpful.
And sometimes when you're starting a new exercise program, it can be really helpful to work with a professional one on one. So, if finances are available, to be able to work with a personal trainer to learn the proper technique so that you don't get injured before you sort of launch into something new. I've been doing classical Pilates for 9 years, almost 10 years now. And it's been a huge game changer for me, but I had to start with private lessons before I could go into the classes because I didn't have the technique or like you said, the understanding and the background of what we're trying to achieve with the different moves.
The other thing I talk to a lot of patients about who don't have the finances for a fancy private trainer or private Pilates lessons is your local YMCA has personal trainers. And many of them actually work for free. So that is a great place to work with a professional to learn how to lift and strengthen safely.
Yes, right. Absolutely. I love all of the community classes. So if you have a community rec center, that is a great place to start. I think they have amazing classes and trainers that are accessible to everyone. And so I think that's so if you don't have a YMCA, look to see if you have a local rec center or a local community center. That's a really good place to go.
Excellent. And then some exercise equipment that we both like. So I put one thing on this list. I have a Bosu ball.
Oh, I love the Bosu.
It's basically a half exercise ball on a stand or on a flat platform. And I use it in two ways. I use it to do some of my, floor or mat Pilates exercises. But actually, what I mostly use it for is I stand on it when I'm standing at my standing desk, and it makes me move constantly. So I'm constantly adjusting my core and moving my hips and my back so that I'm getting some motion even when I'm working.
And Bosu, they have large ones that you kind of stand on and can balance. And they also have little small ones that you can stand on each individual foot as another way to kind of work on that. So my husband, he's going to love me sharing this information, but he ruptured his Achilles playing pickleball for the first time.
Oops.
Yep, can't even just no words, really, Rebecca. So he is now rehabbing it, and one of the things that he's using are these the individual Bosus and kind of working on ankle mobility with those, which has been kind of interesting. So one of the things that I love to do because I have the benefit of living in the Bay Area, so we have a lot of hiking here, a lot of outdoor walking. And I love walking. Walking is free. You can walk anywhere. You just need a decent pair of tennis shoes and you can go. And one of the things that you can do that can be really helpful is to kind of amp up your walk or do what we call like weighted walks. The word that people are using now is rucking, where you wear a backpack and you put weights in the backpack and you can wear a rucksack. So you can get any regular backpack you have at home and just put a dumbbell in it and just walk around. That's an option. It's easy. That's cheap if you have a backpack and some weights, and you can start really small. So you could start with like a 3 to 5 pound weight and work your way up. There are actual rucksacks that are out there that are designed. One of them that is interesting is a place called Ruck Evolution. In full disclosure, it is designed by a friend of mine named Bria Rubin. And she has designed it specifically for women. And what's interesting about her rucksack is instead of being filled with weights, it's filled with water sacks. So you can increase and decrease the amount of water in the inserts to increase and decrease the weight.
Great idea.
Yeah, so it's kind of a neat way to add a little bit more oomph to your walking. Another way to do it is something called a weighted vest. So it's an actual vest that zips on, and there are integrated weights into the vest, and you can buy those on Amazon. I have one called Hyper Vest. It can expand to a lot of different body shapes and widths and things like that. So that's another way to kind of amp up and can be really helpful for sort of doing sort of weight bearing exercise, which is really helpful for our bones.
Let's quickly address sleep and a few sleep things. And then I think we should move on to the books and the subscriptions and all those fun things. So, sleep is critical, sleep is everything. And sleep in perimenopause is the hardest thing.
It's just a fleeting wisp of an idea.
So, I think both of us sleep with sleep masks.
I'm a big fan.
I personally have the Bucky sleep mask. So it's full of buckwheat kernels. So it sort of molds to your eyes and it gives a little weight. I discovered these long before perimenopause because they helped a lot with my migraines.
Same. I've had the Bucky for 50, almost 20 years. I love those things.
It's a great way to go to sleep. It just soothes me and it excludes all light. And, one of the things we know about sleep hygiene is keeping that blue light out of your eyes once you get to sleep time.
So huge fan of the Bucky eye shades. All of my girlfriends just think I'm hilarious because I cannot sleep without it. And so I'm just in like my own little cocoon with my mask on.
And then not hearing sound will also help you sleep. So you can use things like silicone earplugs.
I'm a huge fan of those.
But I've had a lot of patients tell me that their favorite thing is to get sleep buds. Now, these used to be made by Bose. I think they stopped making them, but there's a rumor that someone's going to make them again. But there are other varieties that are meant to be worn in the ear while sleeping. So they're soft, but then you can play like a meditation
Oh,
or
cool.
a sleep story. So I'm a huge fan of sleep stories. The reason I can't sleep is usually because my mind is racing, right? I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and my to do list just starts. And so I put in sleep buds and then I start. I use a subscription that I call them really boring stories read by really boring people. And so it just distracts your mind, but you don't care enough to stay awake to hear the end.
I like that. Do you have a particular app that you use?
They have some on some of the sleep apps. So like Calm
Okay.
has some
Yeah.
and all of those sleep apps have sleep stories. I actually go and find podcasts I'm not that interested in and turn those on.
Well, clearly not
Well,
overreactive.
clearly not this podcast.
Right. No, this would keep you awake. I mean, my gosh, this is life changing. This is a riveting story over here.
Yes.
Those are sort of the main things for sleep that I think are really helpful. It's basically keeping the stimuli away, right? The noise and the light so that you're able to get your mind into like sort of a calm place so you can actually sleep.
Yeah. Let's launch into books. And we have some of our favorite books on this list.
So exciting.
And these are not fiction books. You can have a whole nother podcast about fiction. But these are books that will help you in this journey. And the first two on the list are by someone we both know and a friend of mine, Dr. Jennifer Gunter or Jen Gunter. Some people know her as the Twitter's gynecologist.
Mhm.
And she has a very active blog and posts a lot on social media, but she's written 3 books, but 2 of them really apply and are really critical for this time period. The first one is called The Menopause Manifesto. And she really does a spectacular job of giving you the evidence based information about the menopause transition. It doesn't focus so much on perimenopause, but much more about menopause itself and long term health, which I think is just a great reference to have as you're going through this.
Oh, absolutely. And once you get through perimenopause, then that's your next phase. So it's nice to kind of look ahead and say, okay, what do I need to be thinking about?
And then the second book by her that we recommend is The Vagina Bible. And this was her first book. And it makes me happy.
What a great title.
I know. But the book itself makes me happy. It talks about the part of the body we never talk about in great detail. And it's just such a critical reference for any of us who own one of those things.
Right, which is half the patient population. So,
There you
or
go.
the world's population. Yeah, those are two great books. And we are hoping We would love to have Dr. Gunter on the podcast at some point as
Yes,
well.
yes.
She's great and she has so many wonderful things to say and so many wonderful things to add. And I just really appreciate it.
What are some of your favorite books?
So I have a couple of favorites. I have a couple of favorite sex books that I like. So
Ooh.
I know, getting spicy. Um, Not erotica, although I do think that's fantastic and I do highly
We'll
recommend
talk
that.
about that next.
Yes, exactly. But I have a couple of sex books that I do really like. One of them is by Dr. Lori Mintz, and she's a sex therapist, a PhD. She has several different books, but the one that I really like is The Tired Woman's Guide to Passionate Sex. So when sex starts to feel like a chore and it's something that you're just like, really? We're going to add one more thing to my to do list. It is a great book for anyone who is in that sort of mind frame, which I think is a lot of us.
It's a great book. I totally agree with you. I think she does a great job of breaking it down and really guiding you through concrete steps to take to make sex fun and a habit again.
And another one is Come As You Are by Dr. Emily Nagoski. I think you might be a little bit more familiar with this book than I am, but I do recommend this one as well. And I think it's of the sort of similar vein of kind of reconnecting with your sexuality.
I like this book for people who want a deep dive. So, what Dr. Nagoski does is she really deeply explains and researches sexuality, especially in women, and talks to you a lot about what things are going on in your brain, because really our biggest sexual organ is our brain, and all the things that might block sexual feeling and might start sexual feeling. She just does a phenomenal job of the deep dive. I tell my patients that if you want something quick and something to start with, Tired Woman's Guide is a great place to start. Come As You Are is the deeper dive. It's a lot more academic.
Which I think for some people is really helpful because I think it explains they often feel like they're broken when they come in. Like, I have a low libido. I'm not interested. There's something wrong with me. Can you check my hormones? And I think I just need some testosterone. And it is so much more complicated than that. And we are going to do definitely at least an episode, if not more, on that,
Probably several.
probably several. So I think it's helpful for those who really need that sort of deeper, like you said, deeper dive, deeper understanding of what's going on.
So now that we started talking about sex books, let's just talk about sex.
Let's go for it.
The very end of our holiday gift giving guide is all about that sexy feeling. A good place to start is that, we started the podcast with hyaluronic acid on our face, and we're going to end the podcast with hyaluronic acid in our vaginas, because you need a skin moisturization regimen for all parts of your body in the perimenopause and menopause.
From tips of your toes to the top of your head.
There are several hyaluronic acid moisturizers available for the vagina. You want to find one that doesn't really have any other ingredients.
Your vagina does not need anything else.
Two that we typically recommend, and I think I recommend these two just because they're suppositories, so they're less messy, are Reverie, which is available online. It's made by a company called Bonafide. It's expensive. A slightly cheaper version is HyaloGyn, HyaloGyn. And
That's a great one.
they make a lovely suppository with nothing that doesn't need to be in it.
I would say that's the one I recommend probably the most, just because I think it's, like you said, it's more accessible. But Reverie is a great option too.
Those are great for, a couple times a week moisturizing. Those are not for sex.
Right. They're not lubricants. So these are just to moisturize the vaginal and vulvar tissues, just like we need to moisturize our skin on our face and our skin on our hands.
Yes. But for sex, this is going to surprise a lot of people. And I have this conversation every day. When you go through the perimenopause or into menopause and it's becoming a little bit more difficult or a little bit more uncomfortable to have sex, you need a lubricant that has silicone in it.
Right. Yep.
This is critical. Water-based lubricants are fine. They're designed not to prevent fertility, but water-based lubricants absorb into your tissues over time. And the last thing you want is for that stuff to get sticky halfway through.
That is not what you need. No, thank you.
So you need slippery, and something's going to stay slippery the whole time.
Yes.
And so the two that we typically recommend, I recommend Uberlube all the time. Nice German word. Uberlube comes from the internet. Love that stuff. Pretty glass bottle. You can put it by your bedside.
There's a couple that I like. So Uberlube is great. Another one that works well is called Slippery Stuff and also can be available on Amazon. And then of another similar vein is something called Pure, spelled Pjur. So those I think are my top three that I'll recommend and have people just try out and see which one works best for them.
Those are great recommendations. And then you've got a thing of lube. Maybe your partner's out of town. Maybe you're not partnered. Maybe you just want to feel sexy by yourself. Toys are great. We all need to get familiar with sex toys. We'll do a whole sex toy episode with video because I have plenty of demonstration ones.
How exciting.
But I wanted to put one on the list, which I recommend a lot because oftentimes women are struggling to come to orgasm during this time. Things feel less sensitive. You're just not as aroused. And one of my favorite things, well, it's a company really. It's called Lelo, Lelo.
Great company.
They have the Sona, which is a clitoral stimulator. It puts a little suction over the clitoris and does deep sound waves. They have a milder version of that for those who are a little more sensitive. And they have a lot of great toys. So definitely check them out.
It's great. One of the best things that I like when you're thinking about sex toys and lubricants and things like that is to going into a sex shop because you can see things and they'll often have like, you can feel the different lubricants or you can look at the different vibrators and see, or clitoral stimulators to see what might make sense for you. So in the Bay Area, for example, we have a great shop called Good Vibrations. They have a couple of different offshoot sites. It's really nice because sometimes you order things online and sometimes you just want to go and look at things in person. So don't feel shy. If you feel shy, grab a girlfriend and go. But otherwise, just go in there. And the staff tend to be super helpful and very informative for any questions you have. And they usually have a big section on books as well, in which you would actually find some of the books that we've mentioned before.
Yeah, we have a shop like that up here in Seattle called Babeland Toys. And Babeland also is online. It was started and is run by women. It focuses on the whole spectrum of sexuality, so it goes into all different aspects of it, but they do a great job of explaining things.
Which is really nice because depending on who your parents were, you probably didn't get this kind of information or this kind of education, unfortunately. And so that's really nice to have knowledgeable staff who can really kind of help you and answer your questions.
Yeah. Now we're going to talk about subscriptions relating to sex. And the one I always talk about first with my patients is called Rosy, Rosy.
Rosie's amazing.
Rosie's amazing, created by an OBGYN named Lindsay Harper. And what Rosy is I like to say, it's basically do it yourself sex therapy. So within that app, it's an app on your phone, there are videos and worksheets and reading and all sorts of things that'll really help you to work through some of the sexual issues you might be having. But one of my favorite hidden features of Rosy is the porn. So
Yes, they have a great erotica section.
they have a great erotica section. And one of the strategies that we talk about a lot in reconnecting with your sexuality is you sometimes have to arouse in order to feel desire. And for a lot of us, the porn available on the internet is really not made for us. It's made for the other half of the species. And
Yep.
it's not necessarily arousing, but the stuff in Rosie, they're all dirty stories. You can listen or read them.
Oh, that's fun.
They're graded by how dirty they are. They tell you like what they're about. Are they about a threesome? Are they about married couples? Are they about BDSM? So you can choose what makes sense for you, and they are woman focused and they're written for us. So I tell people that can be a great resource.
I'm so appreciative to Dr. Harper for putting this together and putting this out there. It is such a need.
We have two other subscription services on our list. One is called OMG Yes. You may have heard of this. This is a really interesting website. It's sort of a combination of sex therapy and research. It's a website that explores female sexuality from the point of view of a woman. And it's women talking about their sexuality, performing their sexuality, all sorts of things, just talking about the vast experience of a woman's sexuality. So that can be really helpful. And then I put Dipsea on here, Dipsea. And this is,
I'm not familiar with Dipsy.
so Dipsea is dirty stories read to you.
Oh my gosh, the single greatest podcast ever. Okay, great. Dirty stories, everyone.
I think that's the end of our list, Amy.
I have to say, for two people who are not Oprah, I think we've done a pretty good job of curating a whole variety of things that will hopefully be helpful as you head into this, holiday season. And like I said, whether you're buying for yourself or buying for somebody else, like there should be something on here that will hopefully make your life a little brighter and a little happier, which is what we're here for. We're just trying to spread a little happiness.
Whatever kind of happiness you need.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for this podcast. This has been really fun for us, and I have a few things to go out and buy now.
This is going to be a relatively expensive podcast for me. I'm super excited about these recommendations. So, thank you all for listening to OvaryActive. We look forward to the next episode.
And remember, you're not crazy. This is really happening.